Journey to the Lord of Power, known in Arabic under the title Risalatul Anwar Fima Yamna Sahib al Khalwa Min al Asrar, treatise on the lights and the secrets granted one who undertakes retreat, by Ibn Arabi, was originally edited in 1204 in Konya, Turkey. There now exist some 70 manuscript copies in libraries under these titles in such variants as the Book of Journey in Reality and the Book of Retreat. There have been two printed editions in Arabic, and this is the work's first publication in English, translated by Rabia Harris. Ibn Arabi's Journey to the Lord of Power was written to answer the questions of an unnamed friend who was himself a saint and Sufi master. Although he produced many volumes, Ibn Arabi claimed never to have written anything except in obedience to a divine command. In this letter, he deals with the conditions, experiences, and results of annihilation in God. Journey to the Lord of Power is a discussion of khalwa, which is spiritual retreat, an advanced Sufi practice for the attainment of the presence of God through absolute abandonment of the world. Khalwa is by no means a technique for everyone. Ibn Arabi explicitly states that because of the deceptions of the imagination, it may be undertaken only at the order of a sheikh or by one who has mastered himself. He further points out that to pursue the experiences of khalwa without being thoroughly accomplished in the duties and practices of Islam is to invite spiritual destruction. The practice of khalwa in Islam began with the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, who used to retire to a cave in Mount Hira for contemplation. The spiritual ascent through all the degrees of existence to the divine presence, which Ibn Arabi describes, also has prophetic precedent. In the great night journey at ascension, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was transported in an instant which was 70,000 years from Makkah to Jerusalem, and from Jerusalem through all the heavens to the presence of the Beloved, and returned. The gift of this ascension, though given without preparation to the prophets, must be earned by the saints. Its price is the perfection of all the interior and exterior arts of Islam, which means submission to God. In 1201, at the age of 36, Ibn Arabi travelled to Makkah for the pilgrimage. At that time, he prayed for God to reveal to him all that was to happen in the material and spiritual worlds. God, accepting his wish, opened the world of secrets to him. Concerning these matters, he later said, I know the name and genealogy of every Qutb who will come until the day of judgment. But since to oppose what is destined is pure destruction, from compassion for future generations, I have decided to hide this knowledge. After the pilgrimage, he traveled in Egypt, Iraq, and Damascus, and stopped in Konya, Turkey, where he met Sadruddin Kunwai, a young Sufi scholar whose mother he married. The young Sadruddin became one of his closest disciples, whom he enriched with great material and spiritual knowledge. This book, Journey to the Lord of Power, edited in Konya by the author 3 years after his pilgrimage, was probably originally addressed to Sadruddin. He says in the beginning of the book, I shall answer your question, O noble friend and intimate companion, concerning the journey to the Lord of Power, may he be exalted, and the arrival in his presence, and the return through him, from him to his creation without separation. Certainly there is nothing in existence except God Most High, his attributes and his actions. Everything is he, and of him and from him and to him. If he were to be veiled from the world for the blink of an eye, the world would vanish at one stroke. It only remains through his preserving and watching over it. However, his appearance in his light is so intense that it overpowers our perceptions, so that we call his manifestation a veil. I shall first describe the nature of the journey to him, then the procedure of arriving and standing before him, and what he says to you as you sit on the carpet of his vision. Then the nature of the return from him to the presence of his actions, with him and to him. And I shall describe absorption in him, which is a station less than the station of return. He says that this journey depends on a man's capabilities. Know, O noble brother, that while the paths are many, The way of truth is single. The seekers of the way of truth are individuals. So, although the way of truth is one, the aspects it presents vary with the varying conditions of its seekers. With the balance or imbalance of the seeker's constitution, the persistence or absence of his motivation, the strength or weakness of his spiritual nature, the straightness or deviation of his aspiration, the health or illness of his relation to his goal. Some seekers possess all of the favorable characteristics, while others possess only some. Thus, we see that the seeker's constitution, for instance, may be a hindrance, while his spiritual striving may be noble and good. And this principle applies in all cases. He then says regarding realms, I must first make clear to you the knowledge of the matrices of realms and what those realms imply in this place. The realms is a term for the substrata of the moments in which things come to exist and experience actually occurs. It is necessary that you know what the truth wants from you in any realm so that you hasten to it without hesitation and without resistance. The realms, although they are many, are all derived from six. The first realm is the pre existence in which we were asked the question, am I not your Lord? Our physical existence has removed us from this realm. The second realm is the world we are in now. The third realm is the interval through which we travel after the lesser and greater deaths. The fourth realm is the resurrection on the awakening earth and the return to the original condition. The fifth realm is the garden and the fire, and the sixth realm is the sand dune outside the garden. And in each of these realms are places which are realms within realms, and the realization of them in their multiplicity is not within human power. He says that in our situation we need only an explanation of the realm of the world, this world, which is the place of responsibility, trial, and works. He says that we have no resting place from our journey except in the garden or the fire, and every rational person must know that the journey is based upon toil and hardship, the hardships of life, on afflictions and tests, and the acceptance of dangers and very great terrors. It is not possible for the traveler to find in this journey unimpaired comfort, security, or bliss. Ibn Arabi says that the very first thing is to recognize the oneness of God. He says, if you have understood all of this, then know, may God grant success to us both, that if you want to enter the presence of the truth and receive from Him without intermediary, and you desire intimacy with Him, this will not be appropriate as long as your heart acknowledges any lordship other than His, for He belongs to that which exercises its authority over you. He also says that fulfilling the rites of Islam is necessary before embarking upon this journey. Your first duty is to search for the knowledge which establishes your ablution and prayer, your fasting and reverence. You are not obliged to seek out more than this. This is the first door of the journey, then work, then moral heedfulness, then asceticism, then trust. He also says regarding solitude that seclusion from people will become inevitable for you, and preference for retreat over human associations. For the extent of your distance from creation is the extent of your closeness to God, outwardly and inwardly. He says that you should not enter retreat until you know what your station is, and know your strength in respect to the power of imagination. If your imagination rules over you, then there is no road to retreat except by the hand of the Sheikh or master who is discriminating and aware. If your imagination is under control, then enter retreat without fear. He also says that discipline is incumbent upon you before the retreat. Spiritual discipline means training of character, abandonment of heedlessness, and endurance of indignities. For if a person begins before he has acquired discipline, he will never become a man, except in a rare case. He says that when you withdraw from the world, you should beware of people coming to see you and approaching you, for he who withdraws from the people does not open his door to their visits. Indeed, the object of seclusion is the departure from people and their society, and the object of departure from people is not leaving their physical company, but rather that neither your heart nor your ear should be a receptacle for the superfluous words they bring. Your heart will not become clear of the mad ravings of the world except by distance from them, And everyone who withdraws in his house and opens the door to people visiting him is a seeker of leadership and esteem, driven from the door of God Most High. And for someone like this, destruction is closer than the shoelace of his shoe. For God's sake, protect yourself from the deceit of the ego in this station, for most of the world is destroyed by it. So shut your door against the world, and thus the door of your house will be between you and your people. He also tells us to occupy ourselves with zikr, remembrance of God, with whatever zikr you choose. The highest of zikr is the greatest name. It is your saying, Allah, Allah, and nothing beyond Allah. He says that you should protect yourself from the misfortunes of corrupt imagings that distract you from remembrance. You should be careful of your diet. It is better if your food be nourishing but devoid of animal fat. Beware of satiation and excessive hunger. Keep your constitution in balance, for if dryness is excessive, it leads to corrupt imagings and long delirious ravings. He also says that you should believe certain things firmly before you begin on this journey. You should be sure that you articulate what you intend. Let your covenant at your entry into retreat be that there is nothing like unto God, and to each form that appears to you in retreat and says, I am God, say, far exalted be God above that. You are through God. Remember the form of what you saw. Turn your attention from it and occupy yourself with zikr continually. This is one covenant. The second one is that you will not seek from him in retreat anything other than himself, and that you will not attach your himmat, the power of the heart's intention, to anything other than him. And if everything in the universe should be spread before you, receive it graciously, but do not stop there. Persist in your quest, for he is testing you. If you stay with what is offered, he will escape you, but if you attain him, nothing will escape you. Then he speaks of the miracles that occur in the first stage. And in the first of the stages of trust, 4 miracles befall you. There are signs and evidences of your attainment of the first degree of trust. These signs are crossing the earth, walking on water, traversing the air, and being fed by the universe. And that is the reality within this door. After that, stations and states and miracles and revelations come to you continually until death. He says that God first discloses the sensory world which is hidden from you. He says, what he first discloses to you is his gift of command over the material order, as I shall discuss. It is the unveiling of the sensory world which is hidden from you, so that walls and shadows do not veil you from what people are doing in their houses. However, if God has informed you of anyone's secret, you are obliged to preserve it from exposure. For if you were to expose it and say this one is a fornicator and this one a drunkard and this one a slanderer and this one a thief, you yourself would be the greater sinner, and indeed Satan would have entered into you. So act in accordance with the divine name Al-Sattar, the Veiler. And if this person were to come to you, warn him privately about his actions and counsel him to have shame before God and not to transgress God's limits. Turn away from this type of perception as much as possible and occupy yourself with zikr. There is a passage in the book in which I think Ibn Arabi says that it is possible for this traveler to be of any religion. He says, among the ones who complete this journey are those entrusted with his word, and among them are those not entrusted with his word. And whoever is entrusted with a word, no matter which word it is, becomes the inheritor of the prophet of that language. This is what is referred to by the people of this way when they say that so and so is of Moses or Abraham or Enoch. Included among them is the trustee of 2 or 3 or 4 or even more words. The perfected one is entrusted with the collectivity of words, and he is of Muhammad particularly. Among the inheritors are summoners in the word of Moses and Jesus and Shem and Noah and Ishaq and Ishmael and Adam and Enoch and Ibrahim and Joseph and Harun and others. These are the Sufis. They are the adepts of states in comparison to the masters among us. Among the inheritors are also summoners in the word of Muhammad, peace be upon him. These are the adepts of permanence and realities. And know that every saint of God Most High receives what he receives through the spiritual mediation of the Prophet whose sacred way he follows, and it is from that station that he contemplates. He gives a complete picture of the journey as follows. First, you will discover the secrets of the mineral world. You will become acquainted with the secret of every stone and its particular harmful and beneficial qualities. If you become enamored of this world, it will trap you, and you will be exiled from God. But if you let go and occupy yourself with zikr and take refuge at the side of the remembered, then He will free you from that mode and unveil the vegetal world. Every green thing will call out to you its harmful and beneficial qualities. And if you do not stop, He will reveal the animal world to you. The animals will greet you and acquaint you with their harmful and beneficial qualities. Every sort of creature will acquaint you with its proclamation of majesty and praise. Then after this, He reveals to you the infusion of the world of life force into lives. And if you do not stop with this, He reveals to you the surface signs. If you do not stop with this, He reveals to you the light of the ascendant stars in the form of the universal order. And you will see directly the adab, the proper conduct for entering the divine presence, and the adab for standing before the real, and the adab for leaving His presence for creation. And the perpetual contemplation by the different aspects of the divine names, the manifest and the hidden, and the perfection of which not everyone becomes aware. And after this, you will know the means of receiving divine knowledge from God Most High, and how one must prepare oneself for its reception. And if you do not stop with this, He reveals to you the degrees of speculative sciences, sound integral ideas, and the forms of perplexing questions which confuse understanding. He reveals the difference between supposition and knowledge, the birth of possibilities between the world of spirits and the physical world, the cause of that genesis, the infusion of the divine mystery into the domain of His loving concern, the cause of abandoning the world by effort or otherwise, and other related matters which require long explanations. And if you do not stop with all of this, He reveals to you the world of formation and adornment and beauty, what is proper for the intellect to dwell upon from among the holy forms, the vital breathings from beauty of form and harmony, and the overflow of tenderness and mercy in all things characterized by them. And if you do not stop with this, He reveals to you the degrees of the kutub. And if you do not stop with this, He reveals to you the world of fever and rage and zeal for truth and falsehood, the foundation of apparent difference in the world, the variation of forms, discord and hatred. And if you do not stop with this, He reveals to you the world of jealousy and the unveiling of the truth before the more perfect of His faces, sound opinions, true schools, and revealed traditions. And if you do not stop with this, He reveals to you the world of dignity and serenity and firmness, the ruse, the enigmas, and the secrets, and other matters of that sort. And if you do not stop with this, He reveals to you the world of bewilderment and helplessness, and inability, and the treasuries of works, and this is the highest heaven. And if you do not stop with this, He reveals to you the gardens, the degrees of their ascending steps, their blending into one another, and how to compare to one another in their pleasure. And you are stopped on the narrow path and brought to the brink of hell, and look down upon the degrees of its descending steps, how they blend into one another, and how to compare to one another in their rigor. He reveals to you the works connected to each of these two abodes. And if you do not stop with this, He reveals one of the sanctuaries where spirits are absorbed in the divine vision. In it, they are drunken and bewildered. The power of ecstasy has conquered them, and their state beckons you. And if you do not stop with this beckoning, a light is revealed in which you do not see anything other than yourself. In it, a great rapture and deep transport of love seizes you. And in it, you find bliss with God that you have not known before. All that you saw previously becomes small in your eyes, and you sway like a lamp. And if you do not stop with this, He reveals the original forms of the sons of Adam, and veils are lifted, and veils descend. And if you do not stop with this, He reveals to you the throne of mercy. And if you do not stop with this, He reveals to you the pen, the first intellect, the master and teacher of everything. You examine its tracing and know the message it bears and witness its inversion. And if you do not stop with this, He reveals the mover of the pen, the right hand of the truth, And if you do not stop with this, you are eradicated, then withdrawn, then effaced, then crushed, then obliterated. When the effects of eradication and what follows are terminated, you are affirmed, then made present, then made to remain, then gathered together, then assigned. And the robes of honor which your degree requires are conferred upon you, and they are many. Then you return to your path and examine all that you saw in different forms until you return to the world of your limited earthly senses, or you will hold fast there where you were absent, and the destination of every seeker depends upon the road which he traveled.